What's up, YouTube? Is that gorgeous or what? Man, does that thing look awesome. Got a lot done over the week. I actually got most of it done last weekend. Did a couple videos on the valve train and really didn't do any other videos after that. Putting the pistons and the crank and all that stuff's pretty straightforward. The one thing to remember about a Ford flathead though, we've always been taught that the piston closest to your pulleys or the closest to your radiator is almost always your number one piston. Not in a Ford flathead. Old number one's over here, which is slightly, would normally be number two, but this is number one on a Ford flathead. And when you put your pistons in, you just go 1, 2, 3, 4 down this side, and 5, 6, 7, 8 down this side. Yeah, so there wasn't a whole bunch of excitement about putting in the pistons and all that stuff, but man, did they look gorgeous after putting them in. They had to put the heads on and cover up all them lovely looking Ross pistons. But getting a long ways. Now I'm at the point of doing the final mock-up on my supercharger. I made this intake. Being I'm a cheap guy, I could not see spending the almost $800 for the supercharger intake. And then for that intake to work, I would have had to spend another almost $1,000 to switch out this snout on this supercharger because this has the long snout. There's two different lengths. There's a long snout and a short snout. I have a long snout, so I'm trying to work with what I have here. And I had this pulley made, and regardless, I would have had to have a pulley made, but I wasn't going to spend the extra couple thousands of dollars to buy an intake when a good friend of mine has an awesome mill. And we took a stock intake, or not a stock one, but a stock aluminum intake, machined it down to fit my supercharger adapter. I'm going to do some welding here. But in my final mock-up stage here of the supercharger, I put the pulley on the bottom. And this pulley I had made, one with the serpentine to run the supercharger, and the other part has a V-belt drive to run my water pumps and my alternator. And if you look down, if I can hold the camera here, without creating any kind of an illusion, my V-belts line up perfectly. Absolutely gnat's ass on. Couldn't be happier. And when Pat and I did all the measuring for this bottom pulley, there wasn't even a crankshaft in this engine. We bolted the intake on the top, I bolted the timing cover on, and we took all of our measurements from the front up here because I knew this adapter was going to be up tight to that timing cover. I thought we did pretty good, but unfortunately, my pulleys are off a little bit. So I'll take a straight edge here and I'll show you what I'm dealing with here. So if I put the straight edge on the bottom of the crank pulley here and come up, yeah, I'm 200 thousandths off. So a couple different things I could do. Take the pulley off, send it back to the machine shop that made it, and we could take a few thousandths, 100 thousandths or something out of the back to bring that in to kind of split my difference. But then that's going to put my V-belts off. So instead, what I'm going to do, it seems a little bit backyard to do this, but up here, when we machine this intake, we gave ourselves a little bit of clearance here in the back and here in the front. I'm going to clearance out this front a little bit more so I could slide the whole supercharger set up forward to get this lined up closer. And I don't think this needs to be gnat's ass either. I think if I split the difference of what I am now, I'm 200 thousandths off. I think if I get within 100 thousandths, that this belt is long enough and has enough flex in it, and it's a ribbed belt, I don't think it has to be right on dead nuts. I just don't think it does. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to clearance out the front of this a little bit, slide that forward to fix that problem because I don't want to take my V-belts off. My V-belts are so short that I think if I move the pulley inwards and misalign my V-belt a little bit, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have belt rolling problems. And I still have to get the alternator in here. I got a couple more things yet to make. One is a support for this snout because usually when you're running this long snout, you want a support here. So I could come off of this bracket here. I'm going to come up with a support, and then I'm going to come off of there with a bracket to hold my alternator somewhere out in this area that the distributor will still fit in there. So that's where I'm at on it. The heads are all on and torqued down. I torqued them. I went around 3 times. I think I went 45 foot-pounds, 60 or 65 foot-pounds, and then the final of 75 foot-pounds. All 48 studs. And then I do 3 heat cycles and then retorque them after each heat cycle too. So, yeah, it's very involved getting these heads torqued down. But we'll get it. And I just got some chrome cap nuts in here recently. I'll put over all the studs after I get them all torqued down. I just set a couple of them on there to see how they're going to fit. But I'll do that after all the final torquing is done. So that's where we're at. And I'm also working like crazy trying to get somebody to build me a distributor for this thing. When I bought the distributor off of eBay, I bought a Mallory dual point distributor. I was going to have a local guy curve and build distributor for this engine. Unfortunately, he has retired and sold his equipment. And the new guy that has equipment hasn't even really figured out how to operate it yet and has no interest in building me a distributor. So I've been trying to source out a distributor guy right now, and I possibly have one lined up, but I haven't heard back from him. So that's where I'm at on the distributor. It's kind of the one part that's hanging me up right now. Getting very close. And the other thing I got to do is take this supercharger all back apart. I've already had it apart once, but I got to take it back apart. I thought I was going to be able to live with it, being a satin like this and having everything else polished. Yeah, I decided I can't live with it. So I'm going to have to sand it all out and then polish it. And last night, I spent about a half hour just doing the wedge adapter up here. And this looked exactly like the supercharger. And I sanded it. And this is only one pass over with the polishing wheel. So I'm going to have to do that to the whole supercharger now. So now that I can do it, it's going to take some time. And, it is what it is. I have time. I'm waiting for a distributor anyway. So, but if I get the supercharger looking like that, and that, like I said, that's only one pass over with the buffing wheel, and it's already got a nice shine. You can see my hand in there. If I get that looking like everything else, I think it'll look really, really nice then. So thanks for watching, guys. That's the update on the Ford Flathead supercharger, and we're getting there. In no time, I will have this thing on the dyno, hopefully by the end of the summer. Thanks a lot, guys.